What's up, everybody? Welcome back in. We did a video yesterday breaking down jury selection, what happened, how it works, and I'm pretty surprised they got a jury this quick. There were 300 plus potential jurors there, and it seems like based on when they actually started day one of jury selection, it was about 1 day to pick this jury with all this publicity and all these issues around. So I am pretty surprised, but this case is moving right along, and there's some action between the lawyers, some dust-ups in jury selection. But I wanted to take a minute and just do a quick video to get to know James Crumbley's jurors a little bit. This website did a pretty good breakdown of the backgrounds of the jurors that were picked, and we can take a look at that together. Make sure you guys hit that like button and let me know in the comments if you're going to follow this case closely so we can follow it together. So here we go. The jurors in James Crumbley's case. First, we have a single 29-year-old white male who works in IT support for the automotive industry and lives with his mom and stepdad. He's not against guns, but said he doesn't feel the need to have one. He thinks it's irresponsible to keep guns out of a case. He was a juror in a prior homicide case in which it ended in a not guilty verdict. He said the jury concluded it was self-defense. He said he knows only of brief headlines about the Jennifer Crumbley case. When the prosecutor asked how he felt about the mom's case, he said, "I'm very indifferent." He said he doesn't have social media, but watches TV news and listens to the radio. So we talked about this guy yesterday and how there are positives for both sides. And these are the types of jurors that get picked. Some positives for the prosecution: doesn't really own guns, doesn't love guns, says they need to be kept in an appropriate, locked up or what word verbiage did he use? Irresponsible to keep them out of a case. But he has been on a jury before and had the cojones or the gumption to vote not guilty. So that's why it's good for the defense, and he ends up on the jury. Next, a single 37-year-old male graphic designer owns a shotgun and a rifle and goes hunting. His guns are not in a safe. When it comes to gun storage, he said it's hard to say how a gun should be stored, and it's an issue that could be decided differently to different people. Says he was a good kid growing up, did well in school. Seems like a pretty positive juror for the defense. A 49-year-old male nurse practitioner, married with two daughters, 15 and 11, so he has teenager-ish kids. His older daughter has depression. There were overt signs, a lot of crying. Finally, she did approach my wife. He does not have a gun, but doesn't have a problem with people having guns. Says it's a constitutional right. If he had guns, he said he would have them in a safe because his children are nosy and would try to find them, but noted he doesn't think a safe is always needed. He scrolls through headlines on his phone, but hasn't paid much attention to the Crumbley cases. Regarding parental responsibility, he said, you do your best to keep tabs on your kids. Again, could see it kind of going either way on his leans with certain things. Next, we have a married former elementary school teacher and now part-time music teacher in parochial schools K to 10. Her husband is a mechanical engineer. They have no guns. She heard bits and pieces of the Crumbley's case on NPR and says nothing she heard would prohibit her from being an unbiased juror. Sometimes jurors end up on the jury that you don't get a lot of information from. Either you didn't ask them enough questions, you didn't focus on them, or they said one or two things where you're locked in, they're good or bad. Seems like they didn't get a ton of information on her. A licensed stay-at-home foster care mother who also has 3 kids of her own, 17, 19, and 21. Again, right, the teenage years. Her husband is a real estate agent and a pastor. She doesn't own firearms and said she has no feelings about it either way. Interesting. A woman who works 2 days a week at a dental office, married to a sales manager. She has 2 kids, ages 2 and 4, has an aunt and uncle with mental health issues. She said she believes her husband owned a gun before. Then we have a pregnant woman who has 2 young children. Her husband is a full-time social worker. She has no experience with guns. Again, just not a lot of information on some of these. And sometimes these are the ones that end up slipping through the cracks and ending up on the jury because the ones you get a lot of information from, you're like, oh no, we want to strike them for this reason or that. A retired widowed mother of 3 grown children. Her husband was a welding engineer. She has guns in the house. She was a personal trainer and owned her own gym, but closed her business to care for her son who started showing signs of depression, including self-harm. He saw a therapist and got medication, but decided to stop the medication and go through his depression on his own. Her nephew is a border patrol officer. Interesting there. And a lot of these jurors have experience with people, even close loved ones and children with depression. A married father of 2 sons, ages 12 and 9, full-time data analyst and has guns, a Beretta 9 and a rifle, which are locked in a safe. He expects people to be responsible with guns and said they should be kept in a safe spot. He thinks there are other ways to keep a gun safe other than in a safe. He mentioned trigger locks. I think we also heard from this guy yesterday. If a neighbor had a gun stored in places other than a safe, he would not necessarily think that's unsafe. Every situation is different, he said. When asked if his parents bought him a car in high school, he said yes. and that he called it his car, and so did his parents, but it was really theirs. He conceded nothing that could take the keys away at any time they wanted, noting that they could. He has read about the Crumbley's case online. He said he can be fair and impartial. Next, a married white female with 2 daughters in their 20s. She lives in a home with several guns. She owns a .38 Special, and her husband has multiple guns. They go to shooting ranges. Probably the defense liked some of that. A retired single female nurse who has no children. Her nephew once lived with her and asked if he could get a gun, but she told him no, and he didn't bring it up again. She doesn't own guns, but is not opposed to having them either. A married woman with grown children who works for a telecommunications expense management company. She owns a shotgun and a rifle for hunting, but says they're antiques at this point. She has a family in the UP. Her family taught her how to use a gun. She worked outside the home when raising her kids, and hers are locked with gun locks, stores them unloaded, and doesn't keep ammunition. All that's important because we know that's not exactly how the Crumbleys did things. A 64-year-old machinist who is married and has 2 adult children. He and his wife are retired. He said his wife is retired. He said he served on a jury before in a federal mail fraud case and called the experience stressful. He said jurors reached a guilty verdict in that case. He said he does not have guns in his house, but grew up around them, has fired guns in his family members who own firearms. Asked if he or a loved one were in James Crumbley's position, would he want someone with his mindset on the jury? And he said, absolutely. That's an interesting question. A man who works in residential trash services, is married, has 1 son, 3 grandchildren, said he grew up in the Upper Peninsula. I guess that's what the UP means. And grew up around guns. You didn't want to be a buckless Youper, he said. He said he is not a gun owner, adding he wouldn't mind owning a gun, but his wife is not comfortable with it. Then a woman who works in human resources, is married and has 2 grown children. She said her husband has guns in their home. She said she had seen recaps from the earlier trial, hasn't formed an opinion about this case based on that. So interesting. We have at least one person on the jury that watched or has at least seen recaps on the Jennifer Crumbley trial. That's interesting to me. So let's see the male-female breakdown. So we have 1 woman, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 females. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6 males. 9 females, 6 male, I believe, is what I counted. Then, this is interesting. Lawyers argue in front of jury pool. Day 2 of jury selection included another dust-up between the prosecutor and the defense attorney in front of the jury pool. The prosecutor told the judge the Crumbley's lawyer was trying to deceive the jury with her line of questioning about what it means to have access to something. That riled up Marielle Lehman, who's the defense attorney, who not only denied trying to confuse the jury, but shot back. She should know that she shouldn't make those statements like that during jury selection. As Lehman spoke, McDonald tried to cut her off, and Lehman said, "Excuse me, I'm not finished. I'm talking now." So maybe that'll be a little indication about how the sparring is going to go back and forth. And we know this judge doesn't exactly take control of this courtroom, as we saw in the Jennifer Crumbley case. She'll probably let these lawyers hash it out and spar with each other. So I'm looking forward to covering it, seeing exactly how all this breaks down, seeing exactly how the lawyers handle each other. I think Marielle Lehman, the defense lawyer in this case, and the defense lawyer in Jennifer Crumbley's case, were former partners or have worked together. So we'll see if their styles are similar but different. It's the same prosecutors. So we know we're going to get at least some of the similar back and forth between the attorneys in James Crumbley's case that we got in Jennifer Crumbley's case. I'm here to answer your questions and talk this through with you. Hopefully you guys will be here to hang out and discuss this case with me as well. If you're in here, hit that like button before we take off. But for now, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know.